Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. The WBC champion and lineal champion Tyson Fury has reiterated, or should I say doubled down on claims that he will knock Anthony Joshua out in under 3 rounds. So this time he was on Instagram, and this was following a conversation with his coach Sugar Hill Stewart.
Tyson Fury, the Gypsy King, a heavyweight champion of the world. Yes! Just got the phone from Sugar Hill Stewart in America. We're gonna smash AJ. 1 round, 2 rounds, 3 rounds, done. Can't wait.
So no concrete details about when a potential undisputed fight will be held, although there have been positive signs in public from promoters, fighters. They seem to be saying all the right things, that it's pretty much a done deal, that it's 95% of the way there. I'm still a little skeptical. I'm sort of in that cynic camp. We've been sort of, it's been like a self-licking ice cream for 3 years now. Will they, won't they, for undisputed? Doesn't matter who the names are. Will it happen? So my pick is leaning towards no. So if it does happen, I'll be somewhat surprised, just because this is boxing. We don't get what we want when we want it. But they are sort of talking mid-year for the undisputed fight. We'll see what happens. And bear in mind, there is 2 situations that could potentially preclude that. There is the WBO mandatory Alexander Usyk. There's been some chatter, maybe a WBO interim title, although I haven't heard Usyk speak in the positive to that. It seems to be the promoters like Eddie Hearn who are pushing that barrow. And the other sort of factor that could preclude it is this mediation, which will end in a binding form of arbitration between Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder. Don't know where that process is at. There has been all sorts of rumors, and I'll address that quickly, all sorts of just made up keyboard warrior crap that's been spoken about that by a number of YouTube channels just looking for cheap views. Don't buy into any of the sort of rhetoric, because it's complete garbage. We don't know where that's at, what's actually happening. It's just a wait and see at this point. And another will they, won't they fight, Trevor Bryan and Mahmoud Charr. And bear in mind, this is about a week away at the time that this is being recorded, that this show is meant to happen. So Trevor Bryan going out public on his Instagram with a message for Mahmoud Charr, formerly known as Manuel Charr, about their scheduled fight. Charr is the regular title holder in the WBA, and Bryan is the interim title holder. So this is some form of WBA unification, or Bryan is his mandatory, whatever the way that they're classing it. These guys are meant to get in the ring. But it's been a will they, won't they saga. Both sides accusing the other of not wanting to have the fight. Charr on his social media, see here on screen, a number of different posts in recent days and weeks saying this thing is not real. But Bryan has responded with a post, and I won't play the clip because they've got music in the background and I'll get a copyright strike for that. So hopefully going forward he'll not have the radio on when he's doing statements, but there is a comment off to the side of the Instagram post. So he says, "I'm sick of all these punk-ass fighters and all these loudmouth chumps. The money is on the table, the venue is set, and the date is confirmed. No excuse. When it's time to fight, it's funny when you see a coward do everything to mislead the people. Fans tag Charr in this hashtag. The dream is ready to be the new champion of this division needs." And he actually did say in that video clip, which I have put up on my Twitter, that he wants to win this belt and then face Anthony Joshua. So maybe possible wishful thinking. We shall see what the WBA eventually does. Bearing in mind, Trevor Bryan, who talking about these punk-ass fighters, himself has not fought for 2.5 years. Mahmoud Charr over 3 years. So these guys have been doing very little to earn their place as so-called champions, as it were. At this point, Trevor Bryan's still got a lot to prove heading into the fight with BJ Flores, a former and washed cruiserweight where he got their interim title. It was put on the line at the last moment. He'd fought collectively 3 fights before Flores. The guys had over 70 losses on their record. So he's got a bit more to do to actually prove that he's a threat in the heavyweight division, rather than just some sort of figment, because many people really haven't sort of seen him fight or don't know too much about him because he's been a ghost. Mahmoud Charr, very much the same, parading around like a champion and not fighting. And bearing in mind this event as well is a Don King pay-per-view. King promotes Trevor Bryan. It's going to be $20 or $19.95 or $19.99, one of the two. And because of the lack of fights on the card, the way that this one is being spun is that they're going to provide some classic fights if you do actually get the pay-per-view event. So this seems like a bit of a farce, can't even get a proper card. I mean, it wouldn't sort of surprise me, given everything that's gone on, the shenanigans on both sides, if Trevor Bryan ends up facing Berman Stavern. Stavern is listed on the undercard. We'll see what happens there. Originally, he was meant to be facing Christopher Lovejoy, who had no idea about the fight. So Stavern Bryan wouldn't shock me in the least. Moving on to another fight at the end of the month, Darmani Rock and also Michael Polite-Coffie, with Coffie vowing to push Darmani Rock. So he says of this fight, I think this is going to be a really good fight. We match up with our physical stature, both height and weight. It should be a tough and gritty fight for the fans. My thought is that Rock is a good fighter. He has never been put in a position where he has had to dig deep. I feel that I always had to dig deep because I never had a huge amateur background. Every fight I've had to will myself. A win will be another step closer to fighting the fights that people want to see. And Michael Polite-Coffie coming into this fight with Darmani Rock has a record of 11-0. And Rock, meanwhile, 17-0 heading into the fight. So someone's O is going to go, as they say. He says of this fight, and bear in mind he hasn't fought since 2019, the layoff may have had a little impact on me, but I don't think it will be a big problem. I just got to do what I got to do. I don't really know much about him. I know he looks strong. The main thing I have to do is get the feel back and listen to my corner and my pop and follow instruction and have fun. I'm glad this is on Jan 30 because I want to be as busy as possible this year and make up for that year layoff that I had, and I need to stay in shape. And he certainly does. Rock has been quite notorious for ballooning up in weight through his career. He's generally got heavier and heavier into the 270s, 280s. So Michael Polite-Coffie, even though he said they're roughly the same height and the same weight, Coffie is actually a specimen. He's in shape compared to Rock, who, could be in much better physical condition. He should be somewhere more around 250 for his body type. But it's a very good fight. Two good heavyweights. Rock, who is the better technical boxer in my view, the more slicker boxer. He will be able to do a few things that may cause a few issues for Michael Polite-Coffie. But Coffie, he can punch, and we've seen that in a few of his fights so far. So he's in the fight, but Rock definitely goes in a favourite. The Croatian heavyweight, Alen Babic, says he'd like to face Lucas Browne on his return to the ring. So Babich is currently out with an injury. See here on screen. So he says he's got a shoulder injury. I won't go through all of this. This is some sort of ode to his fans, etc. He said he was going to be having shoulder surgery, so that would have occurred by now. But other reports have quoted Babich saying he'd like Lucas Browne on his return after he is healed. But Lucas Browne has said thanks, but no thanks for the moment, saying I'm booked in for April and July, so after that I'm all in for sure. So we'll have to see what happens with this sort of fight, because Browne is one of these guys. He's over 40 now, but he's got some name recognition, not too many losses on the record, so there's a number of up-and-coming fighters that can steamroll through Browne. Browne, in my view, is a journeyman in waiting. He just doesn't have the journeyman record now, but he hasn't looked very good in recent years. Recent fights, obviously, a couple of decent knockouts that he sustained. The body shot knockout to Dave Allen, and brutally slept by Dillian Whyte. And he's looked pretty much dreadful in every other fight. So he is food for these up-and-coming heavyweights. Even a guy like Alen Babic, who is part, gimmick, part sort of all-action sort of excitement style. I think that Babich could go in there and possibly do a number on Lucas Browne and get him out of there early. What do you make of that fight if it does end up happening? But bear in mind, Lucas Browne, who hasn't himself fought for some considerable time, he says he's fighting in April and July. Those fights probably going to be in Australia. We'll have to see on that front, but Browne will go wherever the money is at this point. The former WBO champion Joseph Parker has his eye on 4 heavyweights he'd like to face after his fight with Junior Farr, which is at the end of February. So Parker, talking to mybettingsites.co.uk, says, I need guys like Joyce, Alexander Usyk, I need guys like Dillian Whyte. There's still a possibility we can fight Derek Chisora. He's coming off a loss, but his career has been revived. I'll fight anyone. I'll fly to the UK or the US or wherever it's safe to do so to get back to the top. So we'll have to see where things go. I mean, Parker obviously has to get past Farr. He can't sort of see that as a foregone conclusion. But those names that he's has identified, people would much prefer to see Parker, who is generally regarded as a top 10 fighter somewhere near the back end, or possibly some people have him outside. But those are the names that he needs to be in the mix with. Joyce, Usyk, Whyte, and Derek Chisora, who he also says is a live option. I think that probably is a fight that they will continue to look at. They are, at the moment, in my view, safeguarding and protecting his position within the WBO. They look at a Chisora fight similar to Alexander Usyk. Chisora's lively, he's game, but ultimately he is beatable. And this revival that we're talking about, I think that is more marketing and PR than anything, because what are the wins of note Derek Chisora has got in the last couple of years? Bearing in mind that David Price is a couple of years ago now, and also Carlos Takam, that was in 2018. So make of it what you will in the way that they are talking up Chisora as this guy who is still a legitimate threat. But he will certainly be game and give you a good fight. But he is a guy who at world level has fallen short repeatedly. And rounding up this heavyweight news mashup video, Martin Bakole has signed with MTK Global to manage him. So Bakole says, I'm pleased to be signing an advisory deal with MTK Global. I know that they have what it takes to help me achieve my dreams of becoming world champion. The big fights at heavyweight are what I want, and I'm certain that MTK Global will be able to secure them for me. And his trainer Billy Nelson says, we're thrilled to be joining forces with MTK Global. They're the biggest management company in the world, and we're convinced that they will do what is best for Martin Bakole. Martin has gone from strength to strength in recent years, and now with somebody as big as MTK Global backing him, we're all looking forward to seeing what he can accomplish. What do you make of it all? Drop a comment, loud and often, hit like, hit subscribe, follow me on Twitter, boxing_squared. I'm out.